But our top story tonight comes from across the border, where today a no-confidence motion has been moved in the Pakistan Assembly against Prime Minister Imran Khan. The Pakistan Prime Minister is now battling for survival, with the opposition tabling that no-confidence motion in the Assembly. Imran Khan's fate will be decided now by many of his allies, who simply appear to be waiting for a final cue from the Pakistani army. As always, the army could decide what happens next in Pakistan. It's our top story tonight.
Imran Khan's government in Pakistan is fighting for survival. On Monday, the Pakistan National Assembly allowed a no-confidence motion
through this resolution
moved by PMLN leader Shahbaz Sharif. The Assembly will take up the motion on Thursday, and numbers don't look too good for the cricketer turned politician.
This House resolves that it has no confidence in the Prime Minister, Mr. Imran Khan Niazi.
Pakistani National Assembly has 342 members. Imran needs 172 votes to defeat the motion. Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has 155 lawmakers. Khan is supported by the Muttahida Qawmi Movement Pakistan with its 7 members. Imran's other allies have 14 seats. The chances of Imran surviving the trust appears bleak. At least 24 of Khan's own party members could vote against him. To add to his woes, 3 allies with 17 seats have already joined the opposition. The opposition has 162 members. It needs the vote of just 10 lawmakers to oust Imran. Ahead of the no-confidence motion, in a mega show of strength, Imran Khan organized a rally in Islamabad. Khan claimed foreign powers are conspiring to topple his 3-year-old government.
मेरा दिल से मैं इल्जामात नहीं लगा रहा. मेरे पास जो ये खत है, ये सबूत है. हमारे मुल्क में बाहर से पैसे की मदद से हुकूमत तब्दील करने की कोशिश की जा रही है.
While taking on the opposition, Imran surprisingly praised India and Bangladesh.
अगर हम उस अज़मत पे नहीं पहुंच सके, बहुत बड़ी वजह उसकी ये चोर हुक्मरान जिन्होंने 30 साल से इस मुल्क को लूटा है. जब ये 2 करप्ट खानदान इस मुल्क के ऊपर हावी हुए हैं, हर चीज में हम पीछे रह गए. सारे बर्र-ए-सगीर में हिंदुस्तान आगे निकल गया. बांग्लादेश से हम इतना आगे थे कि कोई तस्वर भी नहीं कर सकता था कि बांग्लादेश भी एक दिन हमारे से आगे निकल जाएगा.
Imran's biggest concern is that he seems to have lost the trust of the all-powerful Pakistan army. If he loses the trust vote, Imran will go down in history as the first Prime Minister to be ousted in the Assembly. But then, no Prime Minister has completed a full 5-year term in Pakistan. Bureau Report, India Today.
And my first guest tonight on the top story is Najam Sethi, editor of Friday Times in Pakistan and the country's leading analyst of political affairs. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Sethi. My big question to you, is it Endgame Imran Khan, or do you believe like a cat he can survive yet again?
Well, until a few hours ago, it did seem that it was curtains for him, but there's been some late developments. Imran Khan has tried to rope his allies back into the fold. He's offered one set of allies the governorship of Sindh province, and he's offered the other one the chief ministership of Punjab. This happened only about 2 hours ago, and the vote of no confidence has already been launched and is due to be held in about 7 days' time. And now at the nth minute, when these allies were supposed to be joining the opposition, they seem to be about to switch sides. And if that happens, then it's going to be a very close call.
You're saying it's going to be a close call, but many believe, at least observers in India believe, that it's eventually the army that will take a call whether this government must go, whether there will be early elections, whether it's replaced by Shahbaz Sharif. What's your sense? Is the army just a bystander watching what's happening, or are they now an active player in bringing down this government of Imran Khan?
No, I don't think they're an active player now. I think the very fact that they've pulled out from supporting him is seen by the opposition as activity or active. So therefore, Imran Khan can't survive without the army support. And for the first time, he's now having to stand on his own feet, which is why he's now running around trying to woo friends and allies. So far, the army has stayed away from these new developments. And that's what's upsetting him. They're saying, we want to be neutral. You guys sort this out amongst yourselves, which is what has emboldened the opposition to go for Imran. And so right now, the army is staying out of it. One doesn't know what happens in 7 days' time, how close it will be, and who will receive a phone call and who will not receive a phone call. It's a bit difficult to say right now.
But what's your sense? Why has it gone so horribly wrong for Imran Khan? In 2018, comes to power, talks of a Naya Pakistan, but we are seeing now Imran Khan claiming there's a foreign conspiracy against him. What's gone wrong? Is the fault lie with Imran Khan, or is it that the opposition has just smelled blood?
No, it's entirely Imran's fault. For 4 years, he's not focused on governance. He's focused on trying to eliminate the opposition. And he hasn't succeeded in eliminating the opposition, and nor has he succeeded in giving good governance. The net result of that has been that the army that brought him to power has been, now the opposition and people are holding it responsible for bringing this gentleman in. And instead of the focus on Imran Khan, the wrath of the masses and the opposition has now turned their guns onto the people who brought him and the people who propped him up. So I think because most of the army rank and file comes from Punjab province, which is now Nawaz Sharif's favorite hunting ground, that's where the sentiment has turned against the army. And they've never felt anything like this before. So I think there was an institutional decision to step back from supporting Imran so that they don't get bad-mouthed anymore. And I think that has led to this crisis. And now I think they've crossed the Rubicon. It seems very difficult for them to go back to stop propping him up again and then opening themselves up to a bad mouthing by the opposition and people again. So that's where we stand today. Now their attitude is, okay, you guys sort it out amongst themselves. And if you guys can't sort it out amongst yourselves, you will have yourselves to blame. And then, well, we don't know what we'll do later.
No, so are we heading for instability? Are we heading for the return of the Sharifs? Is Pakistan heading into another spell of possible instability?
Well, either the vote of no confidence against Imran will succeed. That will be followed by a government led by Shahbaz Sharif, younger brother of Nawaz Sharif, in Islamabad. That government will hang around for a few months and then order fresh elections. And if all goes well according to the current prognosis for the Muslim League, they will win the next elections too. And then there will be stability, because then they will be in for 5 years and there will be stability. On the other hand, if Imran survives this round, the chances are that the opposition is not going to go back to the drawing room. They will keep hammering away at him. There'll be another vote of no confidence in 3 months' time. And if the army continues to stay away from propping up the government, it's only a matter of time before Islamabad is wrapped up, one way or another.
But let me come back to what I asked earlier about Naya Pakistan. You know, there was talk that here was Imran Khan who was going to stop the looting of Pakistan that he believed that the Bhuttos and the Sharifs had carried out. He was seen as the knight on a white horse who was going to change Pakistan. You're now talking about the governance deficit. You've got serious economic crises. Is it that Pakistan itself is ungovernable, or Imran, in your view, simply could not measure up to the task of governing Pakistan?
I think, it is possible. There are issues, of course. But the army supported Imran Khan because they thought he was a modern man. He had young people with him. There was a new generation supporting him. And they said, well, we are going to be propping him up. And they had high hopes on 2 counts. Number one, they thought there wouldn't be corruption in the new government. Number two, they thought Imran would be able to provide good governance, get the economy moving. Now, on both counts, he's failed. There's enormous corruption in the current administration and regime. Transparency International says that Pakistan's corruption rating has worsened in the last 3 years of Imran Khan's rule. Punjab, which is the home ground, is stories of Imran Khan's party's corruption in Punjab are legion now, and in fact some of them involve the First Lady also. And so that is what has upset a lot of people, that instead of running a good clean ship, it's been the other way around. His cronies have indulged in corruption. There are massive scandals brewing, and they will doubtless come out as soon as he's deposed. And the media has not been terribly friendly because he's been very repressive. There's never been a worse time for the media than under Imran Khan. And so therefore now he's begun to take a populist position that is alienating many of Pakistan's international allies and friends. And Pakistan is ending up in a state of isolation internationally. So this is all very, very alarming as far as the establishment is concerned. And I think for this reason, Imran is not delivered at all. His arrogance has stood in the way. He had no experience of governance. He was only concerned with trying to victimize and knock out the opposition, in which he didn't succeed. The courts didn't support him. The so-called institutional watchdogs failed to come up with the goods, and so on. So it's been a failure all round.
So am I to call him the God that failed, the man who led Pakistan to a World Cup triumph, the man who, as I said, vowed to topple 30 years of misgovernance of the Bhuttos and the Sharifs? Are you saying he's the God that fell? In your voice, I sense complete disillusionment, Najam Sethi.
I am completely disillusioned, and I'm not the only one. Of course, the country was divided. Originally, we thought that he hadn't won the election and that the election had been won for him. And I think that's what we still feel. And then on top of that, a lot of people said, okay, it doesn't matter. Let's give him a chance, see if he can deliver the goods. And when that didn't happen, a lot of his own people have now become alienated. And there is enormous rage amongst the masses for the lack of governance and the corruption that has characterized his regime. It's been a singular failure. And yes, I suppose you could say that this is the God that failed.
May I, a final question. How do you see it from an Indian, if I were to look at it from an Indian perspective, is Imran still the person whom India should want continuing as possibly a lame duck prime minister? Or do you believe the Sharifs would be a better option, the Bhuttos, or simply army rule once again? What from an Indian perspective given, and I'm looking from a perspective of having a stable neighborhood, do you believe is the best option for New Delhi at the moment?
Well, I think I'll put it like this. There was a time when Nawaz Sharif wanted to normalize relations with India, and the establishment didn't want to do that. And there was a time when the establishment wants to normalize relations, not just with India, but with the United States and the Europeans as well. And Imran Khan, who was already on board, has now decided that the populist thing to do when he's drowning is to clutch at religion and anti-India and anti-America populism, which is where we are today.
So you're saying that Imran Khan has moved from being someone who wanted good relations with India, I recall his first speech when he became Prime Minister, to now riding, you're saying, on anti-India, anti-American sentiment and promoting a kind of Islamism. Am I correct?
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
And you believe that this is not a battle that he can win, or it is a battle that is now subject to diminishing returns?
It's a battle that is subject to diminishing returns. Sooner or later, Imran Khan will be out of governance. That is my prediction.
Okay, Najam Sethi speaking as always, shooting from the hip. I appreciate your joining us and giving us a perspective on that big story on Imran Khan now facing a vote of no confidence in the Pakistan Assembly. Thanks very much.